Sanzang and his 3 disciples continue their journey to the west and arrive in a beautiful valley with a small house. Admiring the scenery, Sanzang decides to beg for their meal himself, instead of letting his disciples do it as they usually do. Sanzang walks along the mountain path towards the house. As he passes through a dense forest, he hears the sound of women laughing deep within the woods. Curious, he approaches and discovers 7 young women, dressed in colorful silk clothes, playing and laughing together. As Sanzang gets closer, one of the women stumbles and falls right in front of him. She removes a blindfold and, expecting to see her friends, is surprised to find a monk standing there. Sanzang politely asks her for food. The women, amused by Sanzang's shy demeanor, invite him to come to their house. Inside, they ask him where he's from, and he tells them he's traveling from the Tang dynasty to the west to get sacred scriptures. The women are amazed and secretly talk about how eating the flesh of a monk like Sanzang is said to make someone live forever. Soon after, they bring out food for Sanzang. When he looks at the dishes, he is horrified to see that they are filled with large flies, moths, and beetles. He politely thanks them but declines the meal, explaining that as a monk, he cannot eat such things. He stands up, intending to leave. The women are offended, accusing him of being ungrateful after they worked so hard to prepare the meal. Sanzang apologizes, saying that if he ate such things, he would not be worthy of meeting the Buddha. He tries to return to his disciples, but the 7 women block his path. Suddenly, they reveal their true nature as spider demons by shooting webs from their belly buttons, forcing Sanzang back into the house, which transforms into their spider web cave. The 7 spider demons tie Sanzang up tightly in a web, trapping him in the cave. They instruct their children to guard him while they go to bathe, planning to eat him afterward. Meanwhile, Wukong learns from the local earth god that there are 7 spider demons in the area. When he spots the demons bathing, he disguises himself as an eagle and steals their clothes. He then informs Pigsy and Sandy about the situation. Pigsy gets very excited when he hears the demons are bathing and insists on handling it himself, telling Wukong and Sandy to go save Sanzang. When Pigsy gets to the river, he's so excited by the women that he quickly jumps into the water, wanting to join them. The spider demons, annoyed, splash water at him. Pigsy then turns into a fish and swims between their legs, making them scream and try to catch him. Pigsy escapes to the shore, grabs his rake, and angrily yells, "How dare you make fun of me?" He swings his rake at the spider demons, but they quickly trap him with their webs and hang him up. However, they decide they don't want to eat him because he doesn't look tasty, so they let him go. The 7 spider demons then order their children to take Sanzang to their elder brother's house, where they plan to steam him and eat him later. On the way, the small demons encounter Wukong and Sandy. Wukong uses a freezing spell to stop them, freeze Sanzang, and then burns down the spider web cave. Enraged by the destruction of their home, the spider demons decide to seek help from their elder brother to take revenge on Wukong and his companions. Meanwhile, Sanzang and his disciples see a beautiful golden building ahead and decide to go inside to ask for some food. A man in a red robe warmly welcomes them. While they are talking, a servant tells the man that his younger sisters are at the back door. The man goes to meet them. His sisters are actually the 7 spider demons. They tell him that their home was burned down by Sanzang and his disciples, and that eating Sanzang's flesh will make them immortal. The man decides to help the demons and secretly puts poison in the tea he serves to Sanzang and his disciples. But Wukong notices something is wrong when he sees that the red dates in the tea are black. The old man tries to fool Wukong, saying that the dates are very old, so they turn black over time. Wukong asks to switch their cups, but the old man refuses. While they argue, Pigsy and Sanzang drink the tea without knowing it's poisoned, and soon after, they start feeling dizzy and get terrible stomach aches. Realizing they've been poisoned, Wukong fights the man and chases him to a river. At the riverbank, the man removes his robe, revealing many eyes on his chest that emit blinding light. The golden light is so intense that it hurts Wukong's skin like needles, forcing him to fall to the ground in pain. Struggling to get back up, Wukong washes his face in the river to clear his head. As he walks back, thinking about how to defeat the demon, he meets a woman crying in a pavilion. She tells him that her husband was poisoned by the man just 3 days earlier. Wukong, also upset about his master being poisoned, tells her the same thing. The woman asks why he doesn't take revenge, and Wukong admits that the man is tough to beat because of the many eyes on his chest. The woman then reveals that the demon demon is called the Many-Eyed Monster. She advises Wukong to go to Purple Cloud Mountain and find Palampo Bodhisattva, who can defeat the demon. After giving him this advice, the woman transforms into a gust of wind and disappears, revealing that she was a goddess sent to help. Wukong finds Palampo Bodhisattva, and she gives him 2 antidote pills to cure Sanzang and Pigsy. Armed with a magical needle, Palampo and Wukong head back to confront the demon. When they return, the Many-Eyed Monster opens his robe again, blasting out the blinding light. Wukong struggles to fight back, but Palampo steps in and throws the magic needle into the sky. It lands right in the demon's back, causing him to spit up yellow liquid and reveal his true form, a giant centipede. At the same time, Pigsy is chasing the 7 spider demons. Palampo stops him, saying she will take them back to help with chores. Palampo turns the spider demons back to their original forms and wraps the centipede demon and the spiders in a cloth and takes them away. Later, the group comes across a forest where they hear a woman crying for help. They follow the sound and find a woman tied to a tree. She explains that she and her parents were visiting their ancestors' graves when bandits tried to kidnap her to make her their wife. When she refused, they tied her up and left her there, begging Sanzang to save her. However, Wukong is suspicious, saying it's unlikely for an innocent woman to be in such a dangerous forest. He advises Sanzang to ignore her and keep moving. But feeling sorry for her, Sanzang turns back, unties the woman, and lets her ride on his white dragon horse. Not long after, they arrive at a temple and decide to stay there for the night. That evening, the woman complains to a monk that she is thirsty. When the monk brings her water, she removes her outer robe, making him overly eager. As he pours the water, she places her hand on his shoulder and leans in. Seizing the moment, she digs her sharp nails into his head, killing him instantly. She then goes to Sanzang's room and blows a breath of air at him, causing him to faint. Wukong asks what's wrong, and Sanzang, feeling dizzy and weak, says he thinks he's fallen ill. The next morning, some monks are crying. Wukong goes to check and finds the bones of the monk who was killed by the woman. The woman had eaten him and left nothing but bones. Wukong immediately suspects the woman and disguises himself as a young monk, chanting scriptures. The woman, once again trying to seduce the monk, approaches. Wukong pretends to fall for her trick, but as she reveals her claws, he shows his true form. The demon blows a gust of wind, forcing Wukong to back off, and she escapes. Meanwhile, back in Sanzang's room, Sandy goes out to get food, leaving only Pigsy and Sanzang in the room. Suddenly, the door opens, and while Pigsy goes to close it, the demon uses the chance to grab Sanzang through the window and take him away. Pigsy and the others search for their master but are unsuccessful. Pigsy sees 2 female demons and tries to ask them something, but they chase him away because of Pigsy's appearance. Pigsy then disguises himself as a monk and asks them what they are doing. The 2 demons explain that there is a celebration in their cave because their mistress is getting married to a monk, so they are here to collect some spring water. Meanwhile, inside the cave, the demon happily tells Sanzang that they will get married tonight. Sanzang begs her to let him continue his journey to the west, but she says, "No way." Meanwhile, Wukong, Sandy, and Pigsy follow the 2 demons carrying the water and arrive at a place called the Bottomless Cave, which is underground and hundreds of miles deep. Wukong decides to go down and investigate. Wukong finds his master and tells him to play along with the demon while he comes up with a plan. He disguises himself as a tiny insect and tries to sneak into the demon's drink, but the demon notices a bug in her cup and removes it with her nail. Seeing that his plan failed, Wukong transforms into a strong wind, making a mess in the room. However, the demon doesn't care. She still wants to marry Sanzang and orders another feast to be prepared. After leaving the cave, Wukong comes up with a new plan. He disguises himself as a fruit and sneaks back into the cave. He secretly tells Sanzang to take the demon for a walk in the garden and to pick a fruit for her. Meanwhile, Wukong turns into a peach and hangs on a tree. Sanzang picks the peach and gives it to the demon, saying it's fresh and tasty. The demon, not suspecting anything, eats the peach. Once the peach is inside, Wukong turns back into himself and starts causing trouble in the demon's body, making the demon feel a lot of pain. Sanzang tells the demon that it's Wukong inside causing all the pain, and if she releases him, Wukong will stop hurting her. The demon agrees and takes Sanzang out of the cave. After Sanzang is safe, Wukong comes out of the demon. Although Sanzang has been saved, Wukong doesn't want to let the demon go and chases after her. Sandy follows, but when he attacks the demon, it turns out to be just a shoe. Wukong Wukong also catches a shoe, realizing that the demon has tricked them by creating illusions. Meanwhile, the real demon captures Sanzang again and drags him back into the cave. Wukong and Pigsy return to the bottomless cave and find that the demon has a shrine where he worships the god Heavenly King Li and his son Neza. The sign on the shrine even calls Heavenly King Li father. Wukong goes to heaven and complains, saying that Heavenly King Li's daughter turned into a demon and is hurting people. Heavenly King Li becomes furious, thinking that Wukong is making false accusations and is about to punish him. However, Neza stops him, explaining that Heavenly King Li indeed has a daughter who was once a rat demon. She had stolen sacred treasures from the gods and was supposed to be captured, but Heavenly King Li spared her life. The rat demon was so grateful that she called Heavenly King Li as her father and Neza as her brother. Heavenly King Li remembers this and agrees to help. They return to the bottomless cave, but the complex layout makes it hard to find Sanzang and the demon. Neza uses his wind-fire wheels to track down the demon. Then, Heavenly King Li uses his magic tower to trap the demon and take her away. Sanzang and his disciples keep traveling to the west. One day, the king of Yuhua state has a bad dream. In his dream, a monk takes away his wife and son, so he orders that all monks be kicked out of the kingdom. Since Sanzang and his group need to pass through Yuhua state, Wukong steals some clothes from merchants for everyone to wear as disguises. They pretend to be merchants and stay at an inn. The innkeeper notices that Sanzang is very polite and doesn't eat meat, so she suspects he is a monk and tells them to leave. The group admits they are monks on a journey and asks why the people hate monks. The innkeeper explains the king's dream. While they are talking, 3 princes arrive with soldiers to check for monks. They mistake a bald man for a monk, but the innkeeper explains he is just a merchant, so they let him go. Then, the princes come upstairs to search. Sanzang and his disciples quickly hide. Pigsy tries to hide by rolling himself up in a mat, but when he moves, the princes notice him and knock him over. Realizing they're about to be exposed, Wukong quickly takes action. He opens a chest and transforms into a monk sitting inside. The 3 princes are furious and immediately try to capture him. However, just as they grab the monk, Wukong vanishes and reappears back inside the chest. They think he's a demonic monk and lock the chest, then take everyone away. That night, Wukong sneaks into the palace and uses magic to shave the heads of the king, queen, and all the royal officials, leaving them bald. The next morning, the princes see that their father's hair is gone and assume the demonic monk is responsible. They immediately bring the captured monks to court. After the 4 monks are released, the king learns his lesson and vows to never disrespect monks again. Satisfied that the king has changed his ways, Wukong restores everyone's hair. The king, amazed by this magic, believes Sanzang must be a holy monk and his disciples must have incredible powers. He invites Sanzang for a walk in the garden and shares his troubles. The king explains that far away, there's a monster called Yellow Lion who constantly harasses their small kingdom. They are too weak to fight back and ask if the holy monk and his powerful disciples can help. The king suggests that his 3 sons learn from Sanzang's disciples. At first, all 3 princes want to be trained by Wukong, but Pigsy suggests that each prince should have a different teacher. To demonstrate their skills, Pigsy shows off his strength with his rake, and Sandy uses his spade to shatter a stone. In the end, each prince chooses a different master. The 3 princes train every day, learning different skills from their masters. The princes decide to make new weapons based on their teacher's weapons. While the craftsmen are forging their weapons, a strong wind blows, and the monster Yellow Lion steals their weapons. Wukong realizes that Yellow Lion is behind it and heads to his cave to retrieve the stolen items. However, Yellow Lion catches Wukong, and a fierce battle ensues. Unable to defeat Wukong, Yellow Lion flees to Nine-Headed Lion for help, asking him to take down Wukong. But Nine-Headed Lion warns him, saying, "Back when Wukong caused havoc in heaven, even 100,000 celestial soldiers couldn't stop him. You should give up." Yellow Lion refuses to listen and goes to fight Wukong again, only to be killed by him. Enraged by Yellow Lion's defeat, Nine-Headed Lion creates a thick fog and kidnaps Sanzang and his companions, hoping to lure Wukong to him. Wukong rushes to heaven for help and learns that Nine-Headed Lion is actually the mount of a god named Tai Jinren. Wukong tells Tai Jinren that his mount has become a demon and is harming people on Earth. Tai Zhenren, surprised, says his mount should be in his palace and couldn't have gone to the human world. Tai Zhenren goes back to his palace, where they find the boy guarding Nine-Headed Lion asleep after getting drunk for several days. This gave Nine-Headed Lion the chance to escape to Earth and cause trouble. Tai Zhenren then follows Wukong to Earth and subdues his mount. With the monster dealt with, Sanzang and his disciples are free to continue their journey. Along the way, there are big banana trees on both sides. The leaves are wide, and the view looks very different from what the group is used to seeing. They arrive at a temple shining with gold, and the buildings look different from what they know. The roofs are pointy, and there is a stone statue of Buddha, giving it a unique and foreign feeling. Sanzang guesses they might have reached the kingdom of Shrivasti, so he leads the group into the temple. Pigsy feels confused and wonders how his master, who never knows the way, suddenly knows about this place. Sanzang smiles and explains that he didn't recognize the place but remembers reading about it in a story from a scripture. Wukong asks him to share the story with them, and both Pigsy and Sandy are also interested in hearing it. Sanzang begins telling the story. He explains that this place used to be a prince's garden in the kingdom of Shrivasti. A man named Anathapindika wanted to invite Buddha to give a sermon here, so he asked to buy the garden. But the prince didn't want to sell the garden unless the man could cover the entire ground with gold. Pigsy thinks that's way too hard, but Sanzang continues, explaining that the elder really did cover the whole garden with gold and built this temple, and that's how Buddha was invited to give a sermon here. After hearing this, Pigsy feels their journey to the west was worth it. He even starts thinking about grabbing a few gold bricks to take back as gifts. When Sandy sees this, he asks Pigsy what he's doing. Pigsy says he wants to take some gold bricks, and Wukong hits him on the head, scolding him for being greedy. As the four continue chatting and laughing, the elder monk of the temple appears and greet them. The monk hears they are from Tang Dynasty and invites them to explore the temple. While walking, they notice a young woman in the courtyard. The monk explains that 2 weeks ago, a strange wind blew this girl into the temple. She was unconscious, so he took care of her and gave her food every day. The monk asks Sanzang to help find out who she is while in the city, so they can return her to her family and end her suffering. Sanzang agrees to help. After leaving the temple, Sanzang and his disciples are walking their horse into the busy city. There are lots of people and the streets are full of life. Suddenly, there is a commotion ahead. People are excited because the princess is choosing a husband. Sanzang looks up and sees a parade coming towards them. The princess is sitting on a big elephant, wearing fancy clothes, with a veil on her head, gold earrings, and a chain on her nose. She is looking for someone to marry in the crowd. When she spots Sanzang, she thinks he looks handsome and shoots an arrow with a silk ball straight at him. It hits him perfectly. Right away, some officials come over, bow to him and say, "Please come with us." Before Sanzang can understand what is happening, they pull him into the parade and take him away. Sanzang shouts in panic, "Wukong, Wukong, Wukong," who is stuck in the crowd, jumps up and yells back, "Master, go with them for now. I'll come and save you later." The king is very pleased with the princess's choice, thinking Sanzang looks very handsome and perfect to be the princess's husband. But Sanzang quickly tries to refuse, explaining that he is on his way to the west to get scriptures and is just passing through the city. He asks the king for permission to continue his journey. Hearing this, the king's face grows dark. He feels that Sanzang's refusal is an insult to his daughter. Furious, the king threatens, "If you don't agree to marry my daughter, you'll be taken away and executed." Terrified, Sanzang can't find any words to respond, feeling overwhelmed with fear. Sanzang knows he needs to stay safe, so he pretends to agree to marry the princess. But he asks the king to give travel documents to his 3 disciples so they can continue their journey to the west to get the scriptures. The king agrees and calls for the disciples. The king gives Wukong the documents, and the 3 disciples get ready to leave. Sanzang asks, "Aren't you going to help your master?" But Wukong secretly tells him, "Don't worry, I've got a plan." After they leave the palace, Wukong sees the girl they met at the temple being kicked out by the guards. Something seems off, so they go after her. The girl is sad and tries to jump into the river, but Wukong saves her. He changes into an old lady and asks the girl what's wrong. The girl reveals that she is the real princess, who was blown to the temple by a strong wind 2 weeks ago. Wukong understands the situation and tells her to wait at the temple, saying that in a few days her father, the king, will come to get her. Meanwhile, Sanzang is dressed up as the prince and is surrounded by people. There's a big party, and the princess is dancing happily. After the party, she takes Sanzang to her room and tries to force him to marry her. But suddenly, another princess appears. It's actually Wukong in disguise. The fake princess jumps out the window and escapes. Wukong chases her and finds that she dropped a jade pestle used to make medicine. Wukong heads to heaven and finds out that the jade pestle belongs to Chang'e, the moon goddess. Chang'e comes down to earth with Wukong and captures the fake princess. It turns out that the fake princess is really the Jade Rabbit, who had escaped from heaven and wanted to marry Sanzang. When Pigsy hears that Chang'e has come down, he runs over excitedly and says he's missed her. But Chang'e remembers that Pigsy, who used to be Marshal Tianpeng in heaven, once flirted with her. She is not happy to see him and warns him to stop being so flirty, or she'll report him to the Jade Emperor. Pigsy quickly backs off, feeling embarrassed. The real princess returns to the palace, and Sanzang and his disciples continue their journey. While traveling, Sanzang notices a Bodhi tree and stops to pray to it. Pigsy and Wukong are confused, wondering why their master is bowing to a tree, so they ask him why. Sanzang explains that this is a Bodhi tree, and it's the same kind of tree where the Buddha meditated and achieved enlightenment. Hearing this, Pigsy and Wukong are amazed because it's their first time learning about the Buddha's story. Feeling inspired, they also bow to the tree. As they continue their journey, they come across a big river. They take a boat across, with the help of a wise immortal named Golden-Topped Immortal, who meets them at the foot of the sacred mountain. The immortal tells Sanzang that they have finally reached their destination and can clean up and get ready to meet the Buddha the next day. Sanzang takes a bath, changes clothes, and goes to see the Buddha. He explains that the emperor of the Tang dynasty sent him to ask for the sacred scriptures to help the people of China. The Buddha listens and mentions that although there have been dishonest things happening in the Tang dynasty, he's still willing to give them the scriptures. He then orders 2 attendants, Kasyapa and Ananda, to take Sanzang and his disciples to the library to select the scriptures. However, when Sanzang asks for the scriptures, the 2 attendants hint that they need to give a gift in exchange for the scriptures. The disciples are confused, as this is their first time here and they don't know about such rules. Plus, they don't have any gifts to offer. Wukong, frustrated, gets ready to go complain to the Buddha. Seeing his determination, the attendants finally agree to give them the scriptures. The group happily receives several sacred scrolls. Everyone is excited. Sanzang reflects on all the challenges they faced to get here, and Pigsy jokes about all the times Sanzang almost had to marry someone along the way. But when they inspect the scrolls, they discover that the pages are blank. Realizing that the attendants had played a trick on them, Wukong rushes back to complain to the Buddha. The Buddha tells them a story. A long time ago, some monks and nuns took the scriptures to a place called Shravasti to share the Buddha's teachings. Afterward, they asked a man named Zhao for a reward. Zhao generously gave them silver. However, the Buddha thought the monks had sold the scriptures too easily and for too little, showing that they didn't truly understand the value of the teachings. The Buddha uses this story to explain to Sanzang and his disciples that the scriptures are extremely valuable. They shouldn't be given away easily, and receiving them shouldn't be simple. The attendants were not being greedy. They were reminding them to appreciate the true value of the teachings. The journey to get the scriptures isn't just about going through challenges. It's about truly understanding their worth. In the end, the Buddha agrees to give them the real scriptures with words, but the attendants ask for a gift. Sanzang reluctantly gives them the golden bowl gifted by the Tang Emperor in exchange for the sacred scriptures. After receiving the real scriptures, the Buddha gives Sanzang the title Buddha of Merit and Virtue. Wukong is honored with the title Fighting Buddha, and he's especially happy because becoming a Buddha makes the magical headband disappear. Pigsy complains a bit about his new title, Cleanser of the Altars, but the Buddha explains that his job will be to take care of all the offerings made to the temples, especially the food. Since Pigsy is lazy and loves to eat, this job suits him perfectly. He'll get to enjoy all the offerings without much hard work. Pigsy accepts his new role happily. Sandy is given the title of Golden Arhat. After the group successfully retrieves the scriptures and on their way back to China, the Buddha asks Guanyin how many hardships Sanzang and his disciples faced during their journey. Guanyin replies that they went through 80 difficulties. The Buddha notes that one more is needed, so Guanyin arranges for another challenge. The group reaches a river and meets an old turtle who helps them cross. However, during the crossing, the turtle flips them over, and the sacred scriptures accidentally get soaked. This becomes their final hardship. On the riverbank, the disciples spread out the wet scriptures to dry them. Although some of the pages are ruined, Wukong comforts his master, saying that nothing in the world is perfect and they shouldn't worry too much about it. Finally, the group arrives back in the Tang Dynasty and hears the bells of the Tang Dynasty. Realizing they have returned home after going through 81 challenges, they celebrate the end of their long and difficult journey. And that's the end of the first season. In the second season, we'll dive into some fun battles with demons, and the filming techniques and special effects will be more advanced than in the 1986 version of this series. I'm currently working on season 2, so if you're interested, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you all so much for watching.